We are now moving into Pursued Partner. And the first part of Pursued Partner is new client development, which is usually where most of our clients seem to have the most struggle and where we have the most impact with them.
Pursued Partner is going from annoying vendor to trusted advisor. And the three components of that, so the first one we're doing today, the next one will be coming in the next few days, is new business development. And then the second component is powerful presentations. That's once you engage them on the phone, how to take a great search. And then flawless execution is now that you have the search, it's having the right recruiting campaign, having the right sourcing, having that all set up so that you blow your prospects away, your clients away with a great bed and portfolio of clients. But today the focus, as Tina Marie said, is new business development. And this is the hardest of the 9. This is the one, some people have mastered it, and it's not an issue for them. So I'm talking about the majority of the recruiting industry. For the majority of the recruiting industry, this is the link where everything breaks down. And and we're going to start to tackle that today. There's only 100 hours of training to do it thoroughly, but we're going to begin to track it in a few minutes today.
So we're going to try to distill 100 hours into about 10 minutes. No pressure.
Yes. Perfectly ready to do so.
Great. Why do recruiters struggle with marketing and new client development?
It's a phenomenal question, and it has nothing to do with their ability. They think it has to do with their ability. And there's a thing, this is why we parallel with all of our clients and in our programs, parallel mindset, because it's how you think about the problem. The problem is never the problem. Especially in marketing, the problem is how one thinks about the problem. So the reason people struggle with it is they think, I'm bothering them. What if I say the wrong thing? What if they don't need me? And when you pile all those beliefs one on top of the other, people tend to feel very anxious. And when they feel anxious, they tend to then procrastinate. And that's probably, if you're watching this or reading this, is you go to LinkedIn, you look for better candidates. You maybe want to research the heck out of the prospect before you even make a cold call. You've studied 17 pages on their webpage only to get a voicemail or send an email that never gets returned. So the reason people struggle with it, and I would just challenge you with this. Most people don't struggle making recruiting calls. And there's one thing in common on the end of the call with both, a human being. So I don't mind calling them to recruit them, but I have all these stories I'm telling myself about marketing. It's just that. People tell themselves false stories. We are in the permanent placement business is estimated to be over $20 billion in revenue. It's not a fly-by-night industry. It's a well-respected industry where there's tremendous need because companies use us to fill positions they cannot fill on their own. Do they need us every second of every day? No, but they need us. And we're going to talk more about that, in the coming minutes.
What have you found to be the best way to generate marketing conversations?
There's several ways. I don't know if there is a best way. The best way is a combination. What we're noticing now is over time, because everyone's gone to email and text, that in clients that are measuring this, the return call rate on phone calls to voicemail is actually going up. So it's not old school just to pick up the phone and leave a message. But here's the message you do not, capital N, capital O, capital T, want to leave. Hey, I'm checking in. I want to see if you need help filling any positions. Is the most effective way to generate marketing conversations, either in voicemail or email or text, is to add value to the prospect. Prospects has told us in focus groups year after year after year, they want to be kept abreast of great talent in the market. They want to even if they don't have an opening, they want to be kept aware of talent. So if you, via email, via text, via voicemail, or combined with one prospect over several of those media forms over days, that a percentage-wise, we'll get back to you. And that's one of the things that still today is generating probably most of the new openings with new clients in our client base, is that exposure to a candidate, which they may, or once you get into an in-depth conversation, they may or may not need that candidate. But then you discover actually what they do need, and you're able to fill it that way. The other way we're finding is using text and have an abbreviated version of that. There's a technique we call flip marketing, using the recruiting call to flip it into a marketing call. We have hours of training on how to do that. 30 to 40% return call rates with that technique. So those are probably the two best ways to generate a marketing conversation with somebody you've never worked with before.
Great. And you talk about some of this technology of using text and email. What are some great ways to use that technology to warm up your leads? Are there other ways short of, calling somebody, leaving a voicemail, backed up with an email, backed up with a text?
One is you want to create the look and feel in an email or a text that it's only going to that one person, not to a big list. They need to be short. They need to be kind of bullet points where the successes are obvious. And that'll warm them up. Another way to warm people up, and this is where you need to be consistent, is things like content marketing. We're going to get more into that. And you're publishing content like we are here. We're building credibility, hopefully with you, by you watching or listening to this over a series of time, to go, you know what, those are my problems. Those are my issues. And if they know those are my problems or issues, maybe they can help me fix mine. Right. So that's one of the reasons we're doing this, just to pull the curtain back. So what is that with our clients? What are the things you can teach them? We can teach them about how to run better interview processes, how to make their offers more effective. And you might be thinking, well, that's giving away our secret sauce. They're not going to do it anyway, because there's always more. There's more expertise in the process. So a way to warm people up is content marketing, or using that candidate email, that star candidate email, which outlines their great, their strengths, sending that up. Those are things where you put it out there that people can respond kind of on their own time.
Excellent. You briefly touched on how what you think is the problem, or how you think about the problem is the problem, or overthinking things, thinking you need to do all this research before you actually make that phone call. Let's talk about the fear of rejection, and how does someone stay motivated when they finally get that person on the phone and they keep hearing no?
So I remember when I broke into the business, and I really struggled when I started, and I had, for those of you old enough to remember, late 80s, early 90s, Tony Robbins had a series called Personal Power. They were cassettes. And I don't know which one it was, but I just remember on the way into work one day, this resonated with me. He's like, the key for one to experience massive success is to experience massive failure, because the amount of failure is directly correlated with the amount of success, right? And when you measure it, even in a good economy, on a cold basis, it takes about 13 conversations, actual conversations, not email exchanges, conversations with a prospect to get one opening. So most people focus on the 12 no's, as you were talking about, no after no after no. No, those 12 no's lead to one yes, the 13th, right? So I used to do things, just little hand-drawn grids of 15 calls. And I knew if I filled in the 15 with X's, there would statistically be a yes. So every no, the way you change your thinking is every no leads to the yes. The key to massive success is to experience massive failure. You have to fail, quote unquote, fail 12 times out of 13. But let's look at what the failures in those marketing calls. Most of the 12 no's, if not all of the 12 no's from my experience, were, hey, no, not now. Hey, thanks for calling. We just hired somebody. Hey, thanks for calling. Call me in a month. Call me in 2 months. We don't need anyone right now. Most of the 12 are no, not nows. It's rare that when I've done this, and Tina, we've asked this question in seminars, and I say, how many of you get hung up on a lot? And the hands don't go up. They're not massive rejections. And if they are, that's just a jerk on the other end of the phone, right? They're so rare, but people like, one of the fears they have is that getting hung up on. I was like, when was the last time you got hung up on? They're like 8 months ago. So that's driving your productivity every day. And the other thing is, from a motivational standpoint, people look at marketing from a bother standpoint, like we talked about before. And that tells me they come from a paradigm of sales is something we do to them. We do this to them. And versus sales is service. Sales is something one does for someone. If you think about the placements you've made and the lives you've changed and the companies you've made more productive, you did a service. You have to successfully identify who wants that service. That's just part of the process. Again, but the no's are no, not nows. So again, think of sales as something one is doing for someone, not something one is doing to someone. So those are some things to get out of that rejection. Just know it's part of the process. You're going to be rejected. 92% of the time, probably, ballpark. Quote unquote rejected to get your yes. But each yes, even on a statistical basis, so you can monetize this, each yes that's a job order, and an average fee is say $20,000 and let's say you place 1 out of 4 contingency openings. So each yes then is $5,000. Each yes is $5,000. So if each yes is $5,000, and you said all 13, if you divide that out, it's 13 into 5,000. I should have prepared. $400-ish, $400 or so. Every time someone says no to you, you're actually cashing $400. That's another way to keep you motivated. Is you need the 12 no's to get to the yes, so they're equally valuable. So those are just a few things one can do to stay motivated with marketing.
So in essence, every no gets you closer to a yes.
Absolutely. And unless you're a mind reader, you need to go through the no's to get to the yes.
Great. Any other thoughts on new client development that we haven't covered?
One, it needs to be consistent. The best time to market is when you have too many openings, because that's when you can alter the terms. That's when you can get money up front. You can get higher fees. You can get exclusives. Versus for all of you who know what I'm talking about, when you get a great opening and drop everything and then work on it, then you have and you fill it, or it gets filled through alternate means, you're like, oh, I have nothing to work on. And then you have to settle for the best available thing that comes along next. When you market, you don't have to market at the same pace, but I always coach our clients a minimum of a half hour to 45 minutes a day, even if you have 10 retainers. You want to market a minimum of a half hour a day, because when somebody goes, oh, we only pay 20%. Oh, we have a 6-month money back guarantee. You're going to be in a much better position. We're going to get into that in the Pursued Partner section on how you conduct those conversations to flip that in from a position of power into better terms.
Excellent. I'm excited for that conversation.
I am too. It's my favorite. Actually, probably the Pursued
It is one of your favorites. All right. Well, then. Thanks so much. I look forward to digging into the next part of Pursued Partner. And
the key is in marketing, remember, I'll just close this out. In talking to people you've never talked with before, the main question to be asking oneself is, how do I add value to this cold conversation? How does the prospect leave better off versus me just checking a box? There's a variety of ways to do that. We talked about one of them, which was delivering awesome talent. But how do I add value to the process? And part 2 is, remember, the problem's never the problem. The problem is how you think about the problem.